Myths are not stories that are untrue. Rather, they are tales that don't fit neatly into the historical record, which serve as a foundation to a culture. Gather round the campfire, myth lovers, or, your screens, because today we're going to try a little thought experiment. When I say the word dragon, what do you think of? You probably picture a serpent-like creature with clawed feet that flies and has a long horse-like face. But some of you may be thinking of a terrifying monster, and others an auspicious sign of good luck. So, where do these disparate myths of a dragon come from? Nearly every civilization on Earth has dreamt up a creature we might call a dragon. From the Babylonian Mushkushu with its snake-like body and lion-like paws, to the Egyptian serpent god Apep, the enemy of Ra, who tries to cast the sun from the sky, dragons have been with us since the dawn of civilization. Though in fact, they actually predate what we often call civilization. For even older dragons can be found in the jade carvings and Neolithic pottery of China. Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent of Aztec fame, was the dragon of Mesoamerica centuries before European sails appeared on their shores. And the rainbow serpent of Aboriginal Australian fame is perhaps the oldest continuously venerated deity in the world. From the world serpent of Viking myth to the venerable Japanese dragon, there's almost no part of the globe where we don't find dragon-like creatures. They appear in some of our earliest myths. They're one of the first things we as a species ever dreamt of, either to frighten us or to protect us, to nurture the world or destroy it. But why? Ophidiophobia, or fear of snakes, might be one reason. It's been shown that human beings have a biological reaction to serpents, and our fear of them is atavistic and primal. It exists deep below our conscious level in our amygdala. Show us a snake, and our internal alarm system starts to go off. It's why, even if you aren't afraid of snakes, you might have felt your skin start to crawl, or get that tiny goosebump feeling prickling your arms when you see one, or feel one slither over you. But let's face it, a lot of folks are afraid of snakes. In fact, it's the single most common reported phobia, and statistically, more than a third of you right now have some fear of snakes. So with this ancient primal urge, it makes sense we'd create powerful creatures or deities out of serpents. Myths can form from manifestations of our subconscious.
No. What he said in the first 2 minutes is dead on. The dragon is not a myth.
Stories that are untrue. Rather, they are tales that don't fit neatly into the historical record, which serve as a foundation to a culture. Gather round the campfire, myth lovers, or, your screens, because today we're going to try a little thought experiment. When I say the word dragon, what do you think of? You probably picture a serpent-like creature with clawed feet that flies and has a long horse-like face. But some of you may be thinking of a terrifying monster, and others an auspicious sign of good luck. So, where do these disparate myths of a dragon come from? Nearly every civilization on Earth has dreamt up a creature we might call a dragon. From the Babylonian Mushkushu with its snake-like body and lion-like paws, to the Egyptian serpent god Apep, the enemy of Ra, who tries to cast the sun from the sky, dragons have been with us since the dawn of civilization. Though in fact, they actually predate what we often call civilization. For even older dragons can be found in the jade carvings and Neolithic pottery of China. Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent of Aztec fame, was the dragon of Mesoamerica centuries before European sails appeared on their shores. And the rainbow serpent of Aboriginal Australian fame is perhaps the oldest continuously venerated deity in the world. From the world serpent of Viking myth to the venerable Japanese dragon, there's almost no part of the globe where we don't find dragon-like creatures. They appear in some of our earliest myths. They're one of the first things we as a species ever dreamt of, either to frighten us or to protect us, to nurture the world or destroy it. But why? Ophidiophobia, or fear of snakes, might be one reason. It's been shown that human beings have a biological reaction to serpents, and our fear of them is atavistic and primal. It exists deep below our conscious level in our amygdala. Show us a snake, and our internal alarm system starts to go off. It's why, even if you aren't afraid of snakes, you might have felt your skin start to crawl, or get that tiny goosebump feeling prickling your arms when you see one, or feel one slither over you. But let's face it.
Okay, so the first thing he said is the most accurate. Myths, not all myths are, or I'm actually beginning to question if any myth is merely a myth. Because the dragon is real. The dragon, the super dragon, I call him the super dragon. Some people call him the the grand dragon. The KKK call him the grand dragon. The dragon is all over the entire globe, quote unquote globe. And I know that this creature does exist because I have seen him in the non-physical. When I went to Peru in 2011 to do some healing. And I'll add more to that later. So let's look at some photos of the dragon. Literally, as you see this dragon, this is the form it takes when it's floating through the air. Literally, because people think of the physical world as things aren't physical. So in this form that this grand dragon is taking in a non-physical, it can float. It's not in a non-physical as I saw him. It wasn't physical per se. It was lucid fluid, and it could weave itself through the air. So the grand dragon or the super dragon is real, and the dragon has willed a lot of power over humans and non-humans in this dimension for a long time. And I wanted to do this video because the grand dragon has caused a lot of pain and heartache and stress to Source players, and the grand dragon is continuing to do that as we speak. Here are some photos of the East dragons. There's one. Chinese culture. Japanese culture. Okay, there are some more photos. I don't know why I clicked it off. Or maybe... Okay, let's look at the last two photos. So the last two photos have to do with the KKK. If you've been paying attention, if you've been to America, you know that the symbol for the KKK, well, this is known as the KKK. This KKK robe, this is known as the Grand Dragon robe. They worship the Grand Dragon. Just log on onto the computer and you'll find that's what the KKK worships. So in essence, the KKK worships what most people or most religions call the devil. But the devil is not just one entity, and you have to go to the head of the snake to really understand who rules not just this dimension but the entire universe. What we're talking about here is about the entire universe, including extraterrestrials. Most extraterrestrials are being ruled just like human beings. I know that some of you will find that hard to believe, but it is what it is, unless people start listening and start taking these types of information as a joke. Okay, so the KKK. So if you're making the connection now, we've gone from the dragon, the Grand Dragon, to the KKK. So let's look into the KKK a bit more, because everything is connected. You can't isolate things. You have to make the dots. You have to connect the dots. I had a photo here that I wanted to show you with that brief article. It says Ron Stallworth was the first black member of the KKK, the Ku Klux Klan. Ron Stallworth infiltrated his local Ku Klux Klan chapter almost by accident. The ex-detective's story is now the subject of Spike Lee's new film, Black KKK Klansman. Here's a picture of Ron. I got smaller when I tried to spread it out more. Okay, let's read a bit more. Stallworth infiltrated his local chapter almost by accident. Spotting an ad in the classified section of his local newspaper in Colorado Springs looking for new members, he replied on a whim and was shocked when 2 weeks later a man called Ken called and asked why he wanted to join. Having given the right answer, he was in. He saw it as an opportunity to gather information about their plans and identities, but there was one complication. The Klan asked to meet their new recruit and clearly would not take kindly to a black man within their ranks. A fellow police officer was hastily enlisted to pretend to be Stallworth for the meeting, and a bizarre and almost farcical story began to unfold. While the stand-in cop, so you can, where did I get this article from? Well, you could type in the title, and you'll see it. It's called Ron Stallworth. That's S-T as in Tom, A-L-L-W-O-R-T-H. So again, Ron Stallworth was the first black member of the KKK. My point here in sharing this article with you is that these entities, these super entities, are beyond the KKK, beyond black magic. While they use black magic to be beyond the CIA. FBI, the FBI, CIA, if the FBI and the CIA wanted to take out a source player to kill, assassinate a source player, they can't do it. Now, the average person can also be very well protected if that person realizes his fundamental rights as a fractal, as a piece of the grand light. But most people are busy giving the power away to religion, instead of understanding nuances within religion. They embrace only one aspect of it. So, there are black people in the KKK. Black people are also enslavers. There are white people. There are all sorts of people. So the KKK, so racism is pretty broad. Don't get stuck on the color of your skin. The goal is to join the dark side, because they don't mistreat their members. It's the average American, it's the average person who feeds into this brainwashing program that becomes racist, but they themselves are just using darkness to brainwash the masses. So the serving of the entity known as the Grand Dragon is on purpose. It's all connected. And I'll keep repeating, and this is an opportunity for me to repeat this point here. Every single society, every single country in the world is connected. There are no countries fighting against each other. North Korea is not a threat to world peace. North Korea, yes. Nor is Iran. They have rulers in each country. Each country, it's not just America that the dictators, that your vote doesn't count, that your dictators have been selected ahead of time. It's every single country in the world. So once you understand that it's all connected, then you can understand why a black man would join the KKK, and that certain so-called leaders that they have thrown at us, like Martin Luther King, they all work together. And their so-called death has to be revisited. So, the Grand Dragon is very real. I would like to share with you, and I was given the permission to share with you, but I'm not going to read every single thing in our email correspondence. So now we're going to look at source players and how source players have been tortured. I had two goals, and I have two goals. Let's use a present tense. I have two goals in making this video. First, Mary wanted me to share this information so that it might help other source players. The second goal, my personal goal, is that when the universe hears this, because I was told that when I speak now, I would be heard across the frequencies. Despite the very, very low views on YouTube, things are happening behind closed doors. So the second thing is, my hope is that very high level source players, very high level light beings, including Mary's own soul, are listening and protect, including my protector who asked me to come, Mother Ayahuasca, gives her some extra protection. Let me share with you what she shared with me, some of the things she shared with me. She said, "Dear brother, I need your advice because I don't know what to do. The true devil has manifested before me in so many ways during the last 4 years." Excuse me for that. He says there's nothing I can do for the innocents because he won the game, but he never loses. That source consciousness is aware of all this, and it's inevitable that innocence will continue to be a food source for him, because they made the choice to be a meat sack. To be in a meat sack, excuse me. He says that we source fractals can't do nothing about it, because he's the largest fractal and the closest to the core. Source fractals, source players, those who volunteer directly from source, and they got stuck here because they're making some decisions that don't serve them, or once you're here, you have to complete your journey, your mission. So again, I'll read that again. He says that we source fractals can't do nothing about it. That word "it" is not there, but because he's the largest fractal and the closest to the core. Excuse me 1 second. Okay, that should make it much easier for me to read this. That He is coming after me because I've caused him so much trouble, and he's gonna take me down along with my baby girl, and that all my attempts to connect to source consciousness are pointless because source consciousness doesn't interfere for the benefit of fractals, because there's no right nor wrong. That's not true. That's not true, but I'll add to that later. There is a right and there is terrible negativity. Therefore, what he's doing is not wrong. It's the fractals' bad choices that lead them to be his food source. There is truth to that. That this matrix is his never-ending game for eternity. That he was the first and the largest fractal in the whole existence. That's why he is the closest to the core. He also mentioned he is not the famous Lucifer, because Lucifer was another fractal that he ate him up. He's the dragon, serpent that portrayed in ancient cultures. Okay, so you understanding so far? The dragon is supposedly Lucifer. Now, I don't know how much of this dragon proposition I believe. I don't. So, you're telling us the largest fractal, the largest negativity that exists in the entire universe wants us to believe that he is different from Lucifer. Okay, I don't know. I'm not going to. I've been thinking about that for a long time, but I don't know. I'll keep going. Okay. Second email. Okay, thank you so much for your messages. They gave me the hope that I was about to lose due to his constant attacks telling me that all what we, the source players, had been fighting for was for nothing. That innocence will continue as his food supply. When he said that, the original infinite source consciousness wasn't gonna interfere. The original infinite source consciousness. Unfortunately, this is what people should be calling God. But this is, and then of course, it got all polluted and people start using words like, Jesus Christ and Buddha, and it's just the original infinite source consciousness, it's pure light. Wasn't gonna interfere for the sake of innocence. Okay, that's not true. I felt I wanted to die. I didn't want to exist anymore. If my only purpose in existence was to witness the beast feasting on innocent fractals and myself. So, if I could stop for a second. So, the super huge fractal that visited Mary claims that he is not the same as Lucifer, and that Lucifer is the dragon. I don't know what to believe. I don't know what to believe if that is really true. But I do sense deception in that being. My first thought is that, the first thing that came to mind was that the super dragon, the grand dragon, was important, but I never thought that it was Lucifer. It could very well be this being that's lying. It could just be that the dragon is the one who's pretending not to be Lucifer. Thank you again. Let me skip that. Your word game. Okay, this is also important. He also threatened me with causing and inflicting a lot of pain to my daughter because she's severely autistic, He said her autism was just the first of many things he had planned for her. He also threatened to do the same things to me, the Nephilim, the same things that the Nephilim had done to me thousands of years ago in one of my reincarnations, where he showed me they had tortured and raped me for hours until they left me the Mickey Mouse face symbolism, which means they took my eyes out, got my nose chopped, and burnt my face and body. He said that these torture techniques are reflected in the Mickey Mouse face symbolism. So he said once it's the time, his minions are going to hunt me to repeat in this reincarnation what they had already done to me in the past. Because he said that I'm one of the source players that has caused him a lot of trouble, because I know something about him I must not know. I am a witness and I have to be destroyed. I really don't know what he's talking about. Honestly, I don't know consciously, so I don't know what he means. Okay, also I'll stop there, the sharing. I sense deception in this entity. This entity could very well be the dragon that's floating around. But what I can say for sure, they will all be taken down. They will all be taken down. They're not as powerful as they claim to be. Not even close. First of all, no source player can be taken out without his consent. If you're being harassed, they are trying to annoy you to the point where you choose to end your life, where you choose to give up. I remember the 4 months that I had to go through with the Inky and Lil and whatever other members of the council who came down. I mean, it was brutal. It was brutal. But I survived. So without your permission, they can't take you out. Of course, they can do annoying things such as programming your room, putting entities and physical objects to annoy you. But these things are not going to be able to possess you if you are trying to better yourself. You know, all you have to do is try. Personally, I didn't even ask for it. The very night that I saw Superman, superhuman weapons beyond what's possible in the universe being used from, I mean, that night in 2009, that was when I knew that something terrible was going on. I mean, there was no more doubt that I could protect myself. And so basically what I've done, when I say I mean myself, source self, I put a shield around myself. My source self put a shield around my body to protect me automatically from invaders. So that's why they can't just like whatever they are infusing into the walls in my room, and it's not going to work. But I'll deal with that later as I gain more awareness. Okay, it keeps going off. Well, no matter what they do to you, cannot succumb to the desire to end it early. Once you finish your job, and you know you finish your job, then you can go, but not until then. Because this is what they want. So if you give in early, that means that you're succumbing to an unfinished project or negativity, which will give them the right to send you back into meat suit or into a dimension where they can control you. I saw, to end here, I saw the Grand Dragon, what I'm calling the Grand Dragon, in the ayahuasca state, floating, and it was one of the major things that I saw. So if I had to guess, I would say this being messing with Mary is the Grand Dragon pretending not to be Lucifer. But hey, I'm keep my mind open because I don't know for sure. But I'll tell you, one of the biggest entities was nearly peed. There was a feeling of him peeing in his pants. I know he wasn't wearing pants, but you could feel he was so frightened. You tell me beings like that, so frightened, are going to making threats to source players like the way they are, and we should take them seriously. But we should take them seriously that what they want to do, some of what they want to do, they intend to do it. But whether or not it will come to friction is a different story. Shit is gonna hit the fan for them hard, and they're afraid. So whenever they can throw in more lies, that's what they're doing. That's precisely what they're doing. So source players, keep moving forward. Good luck back to source consciousness.